Ooh, feeling a bit vampish today apparently. Didn't think my makeup was going to be this dark, but this is what's happened, so we're just going to roll with it. Anyway, welcome to today's vlog, which is going to be about PTSD in a nutshell. One of the questions I get asked a lot is, what is PTSD? It stands for post-traumatic stress disorder and is an anxiety-based disorder. It may develop after you have been involved in something traumatic or a series of traumatic events, or you've witnessed those traumatic events or event. PTSD has been known about for a lot of years, but it's been called various names throughout time. So one that you're probably all familiar with, and one of the earlier names for PTSD, is shell shock, that obviously was used a lot after the Second World War with troops coming home. What people find traumatic is going to differ from person to person, but in general, it can involve things like a car crash, either witnessing or being involved in one, being diagnosed with a life-threatening illness or a life-altering illness, childbirth experiences, sexual assault, rape, harassment, bullying. There's quite a big list. There are 3 types of PTSD, complex PTSD, and delayed onset PTSD. I'm going to mainly focus on complex PTSD because that is the one I have. But just to kind of outline what the different types of PTSD are first. So PTSD that most people assume is, everything, the only type. I thought it was the only type originally, but that tends to develop after a specific incident. So on-off occasion that could happen and cause you to develop PTSD. Complex PTSD is something that tends to develop in childhood, and it is exposure to continuous trauma. And the reason it tends to develop in childhood is because your brain is still developing, is still forming, and so it's more, malleable, so it can change and with the situations around you and what you're exposed to at that young age to form the person that you become, your personality that you become later in life. But it's also something you find in veterans, because obviously if they're overseas in a war zone for 6 months or however long it is they're over there, they're exposed to traumatic, experiences all the time. They may see people blown up or generally just fear for their life for obvious reasons, and that can develop the complex PTSD because they're exposed to that trauma for a long space of time. There are factors that might mean you are more likely to develop PTSD after a traumatic experience, and that is such as having had repeated trauma or having little support from family, friends or professionals, being physically hurt or feeling pain, dealing with extra stress at the time, or already having anxiety and depression. If symptoms last longer than a month, then if you go to the doctors, they may diagnose you with a PTSD. It does develop after the traumatic event in general, or traumatic events. Obviously, if it lasts longer than a month, 2 months or whatever, then it's more serious than normal process of dealing with trauma. If you have delayed onset PTSD, it could be several years after the event that you actually develop PTSD. So how do you know if you have PTSD? Well, I actually think this is kind of complicated because I've had PTSD for years and years and years. I only got diagnosed with it this year. I had basically no idea, but so many things just made complete sense. Because I'd been diagnosed previously with depression and anxiety, I put it all down to that rather than thinking that it could be something separate as well as the anxiety and depression. An indicator is flashbacks. I didn't realise there were lots of different types of flashbacks, and I'm probably going to do a separate vlog specifically explaining the different types of flashbacks, but they're not just necessarily you feel like you're actually there, because I think in media especially, they sort of make it feel like it's always a full body experience, like they don't realise that they're sitting at home on the sofa or walking in the street. They actually think they're back in the exact place, and that is just one type of flashback. Another thing is your sort of fight or flight mode is almost always switched on. I'm extremely jumpy. Like, me and John will laugh about it because I'll jump at anything like on the TV. He'll be just sitting there and I'll be like every 2 seconds because everything makes me jump, and especially where my mental health is worse, I find that I'm really, really jumpy. And that actually is because of PTSD, because I spent so long under threat or feeling like I was under threat that my body's now got so used to it, it's in a constant state of that. And that's basically what people with PTSD feel. They constantly feel like they're under threat. Think about whether you struggle to trust people. For instance, I struggle to trust people, especially men. And even John is like the person I trust the most in the world, but I still don't trust him as much as I trust myself. He's like as close as I can get to trusting someone fully. I struggle a lot with being alone with strange men. Like, obviously I'm fine with John because I trust him and he's my husband and we're alone together a lot, and that doesn't bother me. But when it's just random men, I struggle. And even with people I know quite well, like my male friends, if we're in a room together, just the two of us, and like the doors are locked and stuff, I can feel myself actually looking for the exits. I know it sounds so bad, but I literally position myself so that I can make a clean getaway, basically, and get out and protect myself. And that is something that developed over the years. I don't even realise consciously I'm doing it half the time, but as I've really sort of thought more about it since I've got the diagnosis of PTSD, and, you know, the doctor's got me sort of talking about it more, and I've gone, oh my God, yeah, I totally do that. I just never even thought about it. I just thought it was like an anxiety thing, but it makes so much more sense now. Oh dear, Coke. I think my insides are like Coke instead of blood, a bit like that Orangina. Do you remember Keenan and Kel? And Kel used to have like Orangina, and then they had an X-ray and all his insides were orange. All my insides are like this colour, Coke colour. Do you feel like you overplan things? Now, obviously, with anxiety, you tend to overplan anyway. That's part of anxiety. You think of things that might happen and then you overplan it and try and figure out how you're going to be okay, and it's all right. But what I mean is it's more specific than that with PTSD. So for me, I plan specifically for incidents that are sexually assault kind of line. So when I go out for a walk, I sometimes, when it's bad, think of how I'm dressing and how easy it would be for someone to get it off and things like that. That's PTSD, because the only reason I'm doing that is because of what happened previously, and it is brought forward. And it's like I used to plan about what I was wearing. So I used to wear like baggier clothes so people couldn't see me so much, my body, and think about wearing trousers and all that. And that is just stuff that's carried on with me. When I feel well, I wear a lot more dresses and skirts. But when I don't feel very well, I wear a lot of jeans and baggy jumpers, which is actually what I'm wearing today. There are only a few of the symptoms. Obviously, as always with my In a Nutshell vlogs, I'm going to put links to the information and support and everything at the bottom. So if you feel like you need support, you feel like you may have PTSD, just want to do some more reading on it, then please look in the description box and everything will be there for you. There are treatments for PTSD, antidepressants of course. Any mental illness on the planet, give you antidepressants, seems. But anyway, and there's also counselling that is trauma and PTSD specialist. So that means that they try and unbox things that you're in your head, things that you've suppressed, because obviously with things that are stressful or traumatic, you try and suppress them, and you actively do suppress them. So you can't remember everything that's actually happened to you, and it just sort of pops up in random points with flashbacks and various things that trigger you. So it sort of reprocesses everything, unboxes everything, and tries to sort of put it back as a memory that you can access, but obviously you don't access all your memories all the time, good or bad, do you? And therefore it shouldn't keep popping up into your life. But anyway, we'll see how that goes, because I'm the waiting list for counselling. So I'll be able to come back to you for that at some point and tell you how that actually goes. But I can imagine it's going to be a little, or very, should I say, probably an understatement even then, hard to go through, as I'm going to have to remember and talk about stuff that obviously, you know, aren't all about sunny holidays and lazy days by the pool or whatever, are they? I hope you enjoyed this vlog. As you know, like, subscribe and share, help me end the stigma. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you're enjoying these mental health vlogs, because I realise that I'm doing them quite close together each week. But I didn't do that many over the Christmas period, so I'm a little behind. I've got like a vast amount of vlogs planned. Basically, I've pretty much got a vlog for the entire year, and that's without random things happening in between that I want to vlog about. So anyway, I hope you're enjoying them, and thank you so much for watching. Bye.